uh, dear Chairman of the opening ceremony, delegates, and also the guest speakers that from USA, also that from Thailand, Dr. Prapat, right, and Amin from USA, Jiru from Australia. Nice to have you here again in our conference, and thank you very much for accepting our conference. ก็ขอกล่าวสั้นๆนะครับในพอจริงแล้วรีพอร์ตจะเป็นอีกท่านหนึ่งนะครับอาจารย์นิติจะมาพูดถึงการรีพอร์ตก็กล่าวสั้นๆว่าในคอนเฟอเรนซ์ของเรานี่ก็จัดมาประมาณสัก13 ปีแล้วนะครับก็มีเครือข่ายที่ร่วมกันนะครับอย่างเหนียวแน่นนะครับที่ช่วยเหลือกันนะครับในการจัดงานนะครับปีนี้ก็จะเป็นปีที่ค่อนข้างรีวิวเข้มข้นนะครับมีเปเปอร์ส่งค่อนข้างมากนะฮะ200น่าจะ265เรื่องด้วยกันนะครับแต่ว่ารับเพียง144เพราะนั้นท่านที่ได้รับการคัดเลือกเปเปอร์ในครั้งนี้เนี่ยก็จะถือว่าก็ค่อนข้างที่จะผ่านกระบวนการเข้มข้นมากนะครับก็ขอว่าท่านที่อยู่ขออยู่ทั้งวันนะครับแล้วก็ขอเชิญร่วมรับประทานอาหารเย็นซึ่งตอนเย็นก็จะมีการประกาศ Paper Award ด้วยนะครับก็จะมีของรางวัลเล็กๆน้อยๆให้ท่านนะครับรวมทั้ง Certificate นะครับแต่ว่าถ้าใครไม่อยู่เนี่ยอาจจะไม่ได้นะครับซึ่งก็ขอต้อนรับนะครับทุกท่านนะครับหวังว่างานคอนเฟอเรนซ์วันนี้เนี่ยคงจะทำให้ท่านได้รับความรู้แล้วก็มีเครือข่ายเพิ่มมากขึ้นนะครับ I would like to say that our conference in both international and national conference, which has been for 13 years already. And thank you very much for all cooperation from both in Thailand and abroad that helping each other to organize and make it happen again. And we'll see you again in the following years. I would like to also invite you for the dinner. Which is in the dinner we have Best Paper Award. We issue on that the dinner time. Okay, I think that's this year will be also a year of exciting for both international and national conference. We also have additional activities like this year we have IEEE Computer Intelligence session, which is we have about 6 students will present their research work, and also we have some keynote like Professor Amin will be the chair for that session. Also, Professor Gerard Quinchmore, we also in that session for PhD workshop. Thank you very much for joining us. Okay, thank you, and I hope you enjoy the conference and see you again around. If you have any problem or any issues, you can also contact me and also our staff. Thank you very much.
ขอขอบพระคุณท่านรองศาสตราจารย์ดร.พยุงมีศักดิ์นะคะประธานจัดงานประชุมวิชาการฝ่ายมหาวิทยาลัยเทคโนโลยีพระจอมเกล้าพระนครเหนือถัดไปขอเรียนเชิญท่านอาจารย์นิตินะคะวิทยาวิโรธผู้อำนวยการสำนักวิทยาบริการและเทคโนโลยีสารสนเทศนะคะประธานจัดงานประชุมวิชาการฝ่ายมหาวิทยาลัยเทคโนโลยีราชมงคลธัญบุรีกล่าวรายงานค่ะ
Okay, may I also invite Mr. Niti Vidyavirod, General Chair of the conference from Rajamankala University of Technology, Thanyaburi, to also brief the opening remark.
กับเรียนท่านประธานจัดงานประชุมวิชาการระดับชาติทางคอมพิวเตอร์และเทคโนโลยีสารสนเทศ IC2IT 2017 ท่านประธานจัดงานประชุมวิชาการระดับนานาชาติด้านคอมพิวเตอร์และเทคโนโลยีสารสนเทศ IC2IT Square การประชุมวิชาการระดับชาติด้านคอมพิวเตอร์และเทคโนโลยีสารสนเทศครั้งที่13ได้จัดขึ้นที่โรงแรมแกรนด์อโนมากรุงเทพในวันที่6 และ 7 กรกฎาคม 2560 ซึ่งจัดร่วมกับการประชุมวิชาการระดับนานาชาติด้านคอมพิวเตอร์และเทคโนโลยีสารสนเทศครั้งที่ 13 ซึ่งเป็นการจัดร่วมกันของมหาวิทยาลัยเครือข่ายทั้งในและต่างประเทศโดยในปีนี้มีมหาวิทยาลัยเทคโนโลยีราชมงคลธัญบุรีร่วมกับมหาวิทยาลัยเทคโนโลยีพระจอมเกล้าพระนครเหนือเป็นเจ้าภาพสำหรับปีนี้การประชุมวิชาการระดับชาติด้านคอมพิวเตอร์และเทคโนโลยีสารสนเทศ IC2IT 2017 ได้รับความร่วมมือจากนักวิชาการส่งบทความวิจัยจำนวนทั้งหมด 253 ฉบับจากสถาบันทั่วประเทศผลงานวิจัยที่ได้รับการตอบรับมีจำนวน 145 ผลงานคิดเป็นร้อยละ 57 ที่นำเสนอปากเปล่าและนำบรรจุในเอกสารรวมเล่มรายงานผลวิจัยงานประชุมวิชาการ IC2IT 2017 คณะกรรมการจัดการประชุม IC2IT 2017 ขอขอบคุณนักวิจัยทุกท่านที่ส่งบทความวิจัยเพื่อพิจารณาทั้งผู้ที่ได้รับการตอบรับและผู้ที่ไม่ได้รับการตอบรับขอขอบคุณคณะกรรมการพิจารณาบทความที่เสียสละเวลาอันมีค่าเพื่อพิจารณาบทความอย่างเข้มข้นได้มาตรฐานทั้งนี้เพื่อให้ได้ผลงานวิจัยที่มีคุณภาพในการลงพิมพ์ในเอกสารรวมเล่มรายงานผลวิจัยและการนำเสนอในวันประชุมวิชาการ IC2IT 2017 กับขอบพระคุณรองศาสตราจารย์ดร.ประเสริฐปิ่นปฐมรัตน์อธิการบดีมหาวิทยาลัยเทคโนโลยีราชมงคลธัญบุรีสำหรับการสนับสนุนการประชุมวิชาการ IC2IT 2017 เป็นอย่างดีมาโดยตลอดขอขอบคุณมหาวิทยาลัยเทคโนโลยีพระจอมเกล้าพระนครเหนือที่ให้การสนับสนุนและร่วมเป็นเจ้าภาพอย่างดียิ่งและขอขอบคุณมหาวิทยาลัยในเครือข่ายในประเทศทั้งหมด 11 แห่งที่ให้การสนับสนุนเป็นอย่างดีในการเป็นกรรมการเครือข่ายและขอขอบคุณเป็นพิเศษสำหรับคณะกรรมการดำเนินงานท่านรองศาสตราจารย์ดร.พยุงมีศักดิ์ท่านคณบดีคณะเทคโนโลยีสารสนเทศมหาวิทยาลัยพระจอมเกล้าพระนครเหนือนะครับแล้วก็คณาจารย์จากคณะวิทยาศาสตร์และเทคโนโลยีคณะวิศวกรรมศาสตร์คณะครุศาสตร์อุตสาหกรรมคณะบริหารธุรกิจมหาวิทยาลัยเทคโนโลยีราชมงคลธัญบุรีผู้บริหารและเจ้าหน้าที่และก็ผู้ร่วมจัดงานครั้งนี้ทุกท่านนะครับบัดนี้เป็นเวลาสมควรแล้วจึงขอกราบเรียนเชิญท่านครับโอเคครับ
ค่ะขอบพระคุณท่านอาจารย์นิติวิทยาวิโรจน์นะคะผู้อำนวยการสำนักวิทยาบริการและเทคโนโลยีสารสนเทศมหาวิทยาลัยเทคโนโลยีราชมงคลธัญบุรีเป็นอย่างสูงนะคะลำดับต่อไปขอเรียนเชิญ Professor Dr. Herwig Unger ประธานจัดงานประชุมวิชาการ IC2IT 2017 กล่าวรายงานค่ะ
Okay, now but last but not the least, may I invite our technical program chair, Professor Dr. Eric Unger, to give a briefing of the IC2IT.
Thank you very much. Dear Chairman of the opening ceremony, dear participants and authors of NCCIT and IC2IT. As you all know, our academic activities on computer science and information technology started in 2005. That means 13 years ago from now. And in that manner, we can celebrate this year a conference which provides a platform for the presentation of research in both academic areas to teachers, students, researchers from various institutions, and also people from industry as well from Thailand as abroad. We have listened from my colleague Pat Jung already that we have people from 4 continents here in our conference locations. In the 13 years, computer science has significantly changed. That means mostly the internet became the biggest medium providing transport different kind of data for its users around the world. And now, not only with the evolution to the Internet of Things, and the tendency towards cloud computing, the Internet transformed into a significant source of precious and very usable big data. In that manner, it became increasingly clear to us that data and network structures as well as user behavior can be not considered anymore in an isolated manner. And we reflect those changes in the programs and in the slogan of our conferences. That means the slogan of this year's conference will be data network, and you all understand that this topic requires interdisciplinary works and interdisciplinary cooperation among scientists of different areas. It seems to us that this topic meets the interest of a lot of participants of both our conferences, the IC2IT as well as the NCCIT. This year, the IC2IT committee received again over 100 submissions. However, only 34% of qualified papers are accepted to include in the proceedings. The proceedings for the IC2IT conference have been published for the 5th year by Springer, which is indexed in the Scopo database as well as Easy Proceedings and other famous international databases. We are, of course, very thankful to Janusz Kapczyk and all the staff of Springer for their great support as well as for the smooth cooperation we experienced all the 5 years. For NCCIT, there were 285 papers submitted and 144 papers were accepted for presentation at the conference and publishing in the NCCIT proceedings. And for that conference, some outstanding papers will be expanded later to be published in the Information Technology Journal. At this time, I would like to thank all the researchers for submitting their new research works with a high quality to our conferences. And of course, I would like to give also a special thank you to the technical committee members for reviewing the articles and spend their valuable time to give useful hints to our authors. It is a regret that there are many articles which could not be accepted, since the technical committee has to work very hard to maintain quality standards of both conferences and make the conferences a really important event every year. For doing so, you have to understood that when you have an accepted paper, you are an author of a paper which really bring any news to the scientific communities. So all of our authors have understood that the science is a creative process, needed a lot of inspiration and great support from colleagues and supervisors far away from the academic pressure to receive those excellent results. We all understand that we have to do a lot of work for the university, for our university administrations. We all feel that the need to report and measure and compare our activities by crazy quantitative evaluations become more and more every year. And in such a manner, of course, we really appreciate that most of you could achieve really excellent works. We only hope that the main idea of a scientific work and scientific conference to be together, to discuss ideas, not to compete with each other, but be inspired to have new ideas, will be also kept by you and will remain as an atmosphere for that conference. With great help from all university partners for their financial support and staff to become a network committee, executive director committee and technical program committees, that conference have been made. We have to thank the presidents of King Mongkut University of Technology North Bangkok as well as RMUTT for all their support of the conference. Finally, I hope that the NCCIT and the IC2IT will continue to serve the community as a good platform for research and self-development. We prepare everything for you that you will have 2 successful days here with us, that you will get some inspiration for new ideas, for innovation, finding new partners for your research, as well as build up research network for national sustainable developments. Thank you very much.
ค่ะขอขอบพระคุณ Professor Dr. Herwig Unger เป็นอย่างสูงนะคะด้วยเวลาเป็นสมควรแล้วขอกราบเรียนเชิญรองศาสตราจารย์ดร. อรุณีอินทรไพโรจน์มหาวิทยาลัยเทคโนโลยีราชมงคลธัญบุรีกล่าวต้อนรับแขกผู้มีเกียรติอย่างเป็นทางการขอกราบเรียนเชิญค่ะ
Now I would like to invite Associate Professor Dr. Aruni Intaraphairot from Rajamankala University of Technology, Thanyaburi, to officially give a welcome speech.
To Thai language กับเรียนท่านผู้ทรงคุณวุฒินะคะนักวิจัยคณะกรรมการจัดงานและผู้มีเกียรติทุกท่านค่ะการประชุมการทางวิชาการทางด้านระดับชาติทางด้านคอมพิวเตอร์และเทคโนโลยีสารสนเทศ NCCIT 2017 นะคะครั้งนี้ได้จัดขึ้นเป็นครั้งที่ 13 ระหว่างวันที่ 6 ถึง 7 กรกฎาคม 2560 ที่โรงแรมแกรนด์อโนมากรุงเทพนะคะในครั้งนี้เนี่ยมหาวิทยาลัยเทคโนโลยีราชมงคลธัญบุรีได้รับเกียรติร่วมให้ร่วมจัดประชุมร่วมกับมหาวิทยาลัยเทคโนโลยีพระจอมเกล้าพระนครเหนือนะคะเป็นเจ้าภาพร่วมเป้าหมายก็คือใช้เป็นเวทีเพื่อเผยแพร่แล้วก็นำเสนอผลงานทางวิชาการทางด้านคอมพิวเตอร์และเทคโนโลยีสารสนเทศของนักศึกษาอาจารย์นักวิจัยแล้วก็ผู้สนใจทั่วๆไปนะคะในการจัดประชุมครั้งนี้เนี่ยในภาคภาษาไทยเราได้รับความร่วมมือจากสถาบันการศึกษาทั้งในและต่างประเทศรวมทั้งเราจัดคู่กับทางอินเตอร์ด้วยนะคะซึ่งเราถือว่าเป็นภารกิจสำคัญของมหาวิทยาลัยในนามของประธานจัดงานกลุ่มวิชาการทางด้านคอมพิวเตอร์และสารสนเทศ NCCIT 2017 นะคะในฝั่งของมหาวิทยาลัยเทคโนโลยีราชมงคลธัญบุรีก็กราบขอบพระคุณ Keynote Speaker นักวิจัยที่ส่งบทความนะคะปีนี้เรามีบทความเข้าร่วมเยอะมากแล้วก็คัดเลือกหลายอันที่เราก็เสียดายที่เราต้องตัดออกนะคะซึ่งโอกาสหน้าเราคงจะได้รับความกรุณาที่จะส่งเข้าร่วมอีกครั้งหนึ่งขอบคุณท่านอธิการผู้บริหารมหาวิทยาลัยคณาจารย์คณะกรรมการดำเนินการทุกฝ่ายโดยเฉพาะสำนักวิทยาบริการและสารสนเทศมหาวิทยาลัยเทคโนโลยีราชมงคลธัญบุรีสถาบันการศึกษาทั้งในและต่างประเทศที่เข้าร่วมเป็นเครือข่ายคณะเทคโนโลยีสารสนเทศมหาวิทยาลัยเทคโนโลยีพระจอมเกล้าพระนครเหนือในฐานะประธานเครือข่ายในการจัดการประชุมครั้งนี้ให้สำเร็จรุ่ร่วงตามวัตถุประสงค์ในโอกาสนี้ดิฉันก็ขอต้อนรับเข้าสู่การประชุมทางด้านระดับชาติทางด้านคอมพิวเตอร์และเทคโนโลยีสารสนเทศ NCCIT 2017 ในครั้งที่ 13 ในโอกาสนี้ด้วยค่ะขอบพระคุณทุกท่านนะคะขอบพระคุณค่ะ
ขอขอบพระคุณท่านรองศาสตราจารย์ดร. อรุณีอินทรไพโรจน์เป็นอย่างสูงขอเรียนเชิญรองศาสตราจารย์ดร. พยุงมีศักดิ์คณบดีคณะเทคโนโลยีสารสนเทศมหาวิทยาลัยเทคโนโลยีพระจอมเกล้าพระนครเหนือมอบของที่ระลึกค่ะ
Okay, may I invite Dr. Payung Misa to present Dr. Aruni with a token of appreciation from the conference. Thank you very much.
ค่ะขอขอบพระคุณเป็นอย่างสูงนะคะลำดับถัดไปขอเรียนเชิญรองศาสตราจารย์ดร. สมฤกษ์จันทระอัมพรรองอธิการบดีฝ่ายวิจัยและพัฒนาเทคโนโลยีสารสนเทศมหาวิทยาลัยเทคโนโลยีพระจอมเกล้าพระนครเหนือกล่าวเปิดงานค่ะกราบเรียนเชิญค่ะ
Now I would like to invite Associate Professor Dr. Somrek Jantara Ampon, Vice President in Research and Technology Development at King Mongkut's University of Technology, North Bangkok, to give an opening speech for the conference.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The representative of the RMUT Thunderburi, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Co-Chairman, and Mr. Technical Program Chair, also guest speakers, ladies and gentlemen. Today is my great honor to be here in the International and National Conference on Computing and Information Technologies. And I think this subject is quite important since we are now entering the fourth industrial revolution, where the big data, data science, and data network communication are quite important subjects. And also in Thailand, now we are trying to move forward to Thailand 4.0 model. And to drive this Thailand 4.0, these domains of knowledge are crucially needed since they are the enabling technologies by themselves, and they will be also used to serve many sectors in our targeted industries like computing and information technologies for automobile, for food processing, for robotics and automation, for aviation, for medical devices, and also for energy system. These are our targeted industries, the conventional and the new S-curve industries. Anyway, what I said is just the application level, but we have to deep down to the basic knowledge, and we need this kind of knowledge crucially as well. So I do hope that in this event, we will have the good opportunity to share and to discuss our knowledge and expertise in this domain. And most importantly, I do hope that we will have more network, more friends, and more collaboration. Because by this kind of collaboration, we can do much more things further, as we know that together we can. So finally, I will make it short. So I would like to declare the opening of the International Conference on Computing and Information Technologies. And I do hope that you all will enjoy this conference for the whole 2 days. Thank you.
เรียนเชิญอาจารย์นิติวิทยาวิโรธผู้อำนวยการสำนักวิทยาบริการและเทคโนโลยีสารสนเทศมอบของที่ระลึกค่ะลำดับถัดไปขอเรียนเชิญท่านประธานจัดงานนะคะรวมถึงเครือข่ายแล้วก็วิทยากรนะคะถ่ายภาพหมู่ร่วมกันบนเวทีค่ะ
Now it's time for group photos. May I invite all the organizers, partner universities, and as well as guest speakers on the stage to have a group photos with us.
ขออนุญาตเรียนเชิญตัวแทนจากเครือข่ายนะคะทางด้านของ NCCIT ถ่ายภาพหมู่ร่วมกันค่ะขอเรียนเชิญค่ะ ค่ะขอขอบพระคุณเป็นอย่างสูงนะคะ
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Do you have a pointer or not?
If
you have a use yours, otherwise I use mine.
I'm not sure, but I will.
So where I put this one?
Yes, over there. The computer is over there. Okay. ลำดับถัดไปขอกราบเรียนเชิญ Professor ดรจีรูนะคะในเรื่องของการบรรยายพิเศษในหัวข้อ Fuzzy Transfer Learning for Prediction and Decision Support จากมหาวิทยาลัย University of Technology Sydney ค่ะ
Now it's my great honor to introduce to you the first speaker. She is an Associate Dean in Research in the Faculty of Engineering and Information Technology at the University of Technology Sydney, UTS. She is also the Director of the Decision System and E-Service Intelligence Research Lab in the Center of Quantum Computation and Intelligence System. She has published over 400 papers, 6 research books, and have won over 10 research grants in her past 15 years. Her research interests are decision support system, recommender systems, prediction and early warning systems, fuzzy for learning, concept of drift, and web-based e-service intelligence. Well, this long list of explain the topic of her talk today, which will be on fuzzy transferred learning for prediction and decision support. Please give a warm welcome to our first keynote speaker today, Professor Dr. Ji Liu.
Good morning, everyone. This is my pleasure to come here to work with you together to share our ideas together and to talk about our recent development in one of very important type of machine learning, concept drift. So my topic today is about how to identify concept drift when you do machine learning. What are the differences between classical machine learning and machine learning under concept drift? So just now has been introduced. I come from University of Technology, Sydney. We have a big center, there's a new center, Artificial Intelligence. So I'm the director of this new center. And in the new center, machine learning is one of the important research area of artificial intelligence in the center. So my talk today is just talk about the recent development by my group in concept drift area. So I will give an introduction about concept drift. After that, I will give a definition of concept drift. Then we will talk about what are the challenges in this area. After that, I will talk about the 3 parts of concept drift. 1, concept drift, the detection, how to find the concept drift. 2nd, concept drift understanding, how to understand the concept drift, where has the drift, and how much the drift. And finally, about the knowledge adaptation, that means reaction of concept drift. So 3 parts. Each part, I will talk about some new development, new algorithms, new methods, and new models, and new frameworks. And finally, we can have a conclusion about the importance of concept drift, detection, and reaction in machine learning and the data science area. I believe all of you understand now AI is a very hot research area, and machine learning is the core technology in artificial intelligence. What about machine learning? Actually, machine learning normally it's a highly data related. So we have data, the raw data, come from anywhere. Your mobile phones and shopping centers and marketing and whatever customers. When you have data, that is raw data. Before you do any this analysis, you need to have some pre-study, some pre-process. For example, this data fusion. You get this data from 5, 6, 7, 100 places. You need to fuse them into one. That's after that we get process data. After you have processed data, what do you need to do next? Probably you need to do some this fusion data this future selection and or do some this some related this technology work. And after that, you will get this quite this transferred data. Those ones are ready for you to do final analysis to generate knowledge. That you can do classification, for example. The knowledge, why we use knowledge, why we need knowledge. So we do data mining or we do machine learning, we generate knowledge. It will be used for the future use. So later on, when you have new data, then you can use the knowledge you generated before to generate the early warnings or predictions or support decision making. That's the idea about machine learning. However, what is the problem? The problem is if you generate knowledge, use previous data, and the data is not new or the data is different from current data patterns, then the knowledge you generated is based on all the data, so it's not useful or not suitable, not appropriate to be used to deal with the current situation. That is the problem. If you use all the knowledge generated based on all the data, then you deal with the new data, the prediction and the decision generated will be not accurate to support the current situation. I gave you two scenarios about the machine learning in that situation. One is we have static data. For static data, that is okay. We use classical machine learning because we have all the data statics already put into a database. And we use this one, we generate a model. And we use the model to deal with all the new data. We generate this new knowledge and data and knowledge. So you can reuse many, many times. But that is static data. The data come and stay in the database. Another part or another situation is stream data. The data like a stream, okay, come every minute. And this continuing come to this our system. For example, mobile phone data. Everybody use mobile phone every day, every second. Then there's all the mobile phone data we get like a stream data. For stream data, that is the more important area at the moment all people in data science area try to fix. For this stream data, we have two situations. One is like the model. You can say, we can consider those are the cases. For example, when you have data come and you train the first, there's a group of data, you generate a model, you use the model for the new data, then this you can generate a prediction. That is currently we all use this way if you don't consider concept drift. However, now the situation is we could have concept drift. When you consider concept drift, then the issue becomes to, when you have this data and you use the data, you generate a model. And the model you can use for those data is okay. But when you have some drift, your data has some these big changes, then you have to use the new data, generate a model for the new coming data, streaming data, generate prediction. You cannot use this old one because this one cannot generate accurate prediction. And the data keep changing. Then you have this new data, and you train a new model and for the prediction. So that's the situation we consider concept drift. And those one is the traditional machine learning, don't consider concept drift. And all both are under streaming data. So what we are talking about today my talk is focused on this situation, dynamic model under stream data, and we consider concept drift. For concept drift, we have different types available. So we have 4 very typical types. The first one is a sudden drift. So this data is keep the same pattern, but suddenly drift to a new pattern. Okay? And you may ask me, all the data have drift? Sometimes, some not. For example, the way we use email. Now the way we use email, almost the same as 5 years ago and 10 years ago. So for email usage data, we keep almost the same model. That's no drift. However, for some other data types I will give you later on, we can find a very clear drift. So second type of drift is, like this one, it's a gradual drift. And another drift, this incremental drift, and another is reoccurring drift. 2 types of drift, and we developed some methods to deal with all types of drift, and some focus on the first 2 and first 2 drift. So I will talk the methods and the models later on. As I mentioned before, we use the same way to deal with the usage of email. In the last 5, 6 years, even 10 years more, we do the same way for email usage. But look at the mobile phones. Consider 30 years ago or 20 years ago, the mobile phone 100% used for calls. Call your friend, call your family. And this then changed to calls plus some text message. You send a message to your friends. And then we have multimedia. Then we have a camera. And how about the mobile phone now, the usage? So the mobile phone now about the usage, we only have very small percentage to call your friends, and quite a big percentage used as camera. So just now I saw so many mobile phones, just to make a photo. And more than half of usage about the internet. So that's the usage change. Consider machine learning. If you use data these years, or you use data those years to have a prediction about the customer usage of mobile phones, the prediction won't be right. Assume we have a new mobile phone, iPhone 9 or iPhone 10, and come next year and ask you to use the data to have generate a prediction about the customer usage or customer usage behaviors, then those data couldn't be used. Or if you use data, you must consider concept drift. So the situation is we have past data, historical data about mobile phone usage. And we want to have a prediction. We have some new data, but maybe not enough for train a model for prediction. Then what we do, the historical data is enough to generate learn model because lots training data. And if the historical data and the current data keep same data distribution, then this model you generated based on this old data, historical data, can be used for the new prediction model. But if the historical data and the new data keep different data distribution, then the model you generated based on historical data cannot be applied for the new data-based model generation and prediction. Okay, the issue is very clear. Now, how to deal with that issue? How to deal with then the concept drift issue? Another example about concept drift. This is about the credit card fraud. The data we got from some real data sites. So consider the person, if the person is very young, younger than 20 years old, then this, his income less than $60K. Then this, we gave a positive ticket. Positive doesn't mean it's your transactions, it's a credit card fraud. That is high risk, right? And if more than 60K, then this is negative. So we can use decision trees to describe that situation. Also, you can use this another way to describe the situation. Now, every body's salary is getting higher. Okay, in the last 2 years, the salary has been increased a lot. So that's a decision tree, or that is a model generated based on the old data, cannot be used for current situation anymore. We have to, based on that situation, we have to revise, upgrade, update the model, become to a new model. That new model that is 60K, but before it's greater than 60K is negative. Now we think greater than 80K is a negative. So 60K and 80K, this part, we will put this as positive. So that is a drift. Okay, similar situation, here is a drift. Within the drift, that is the old model cannot be used for the new current situation. This, we use another part to show the problems when you use old model to deal with the new data, which has a different data distribution from previous one. That is the case. So we know concept drift is the key issue to cause prediction accuracy reduce. Then if your data based distribution have some changes, okay, like those, then the problem is your learning error rate will be increased. So if you use this model to train this one, so the error rate is okay. But because this distribution has been changed, so you still use the old model to train this one, you will have a very high error rate. That is the problem. Okay, now we understand what is the problem in machine learning under a dynamic situation. How to identify concept drift and how to handle concept drift will be the second part about concept drift definition and challenges. So we understand that the drift, now we need to give a definition about the drift. So concept the drift is if existing a T and the joint probability of X and Y not equal to the joint probability X and Y in T plus. So that is the old disjoint probability, that is the current joint probability, that is the domain feature space, that is output is a label space. That is the definition of concept drift. However, the concept drift, this one, the joint probability, this keep differences, and the joint probability can be described by two parts, and one is the domain change, another is the boundary change. So we can say this here, probably easy for you to understand. When you in time t, okay, then we give example, use classification. And when you in time t and do classification, and you have this outcome like this. And if this the probability of X drift, but this the condition probability keep the same, then this you may have this classification, all these instances become to here. So that is a type 1 drift. What is a type 2 drift? Type 2 drift is the conditional probability drift, but the main feature space keep the same. So you can say from those classifications, we become to the red part. And type 3, the drift type 3 is we have both conditional probability and the feature space, both is changed. So like this. Okay, now that's the definition of concept drift. Based on definition, what kind of changes we need to do for traditional or classical machine learning? Traditional machine learning has mainly two parts. One is the training learning, part 1. Another is make prediction, generate prediction, part 2. But for this the situation, if you want to consider drift, we need to add 3 parts. 1, drift detection. We need to identify, do we have drift or not? Some data, no drift. Some, yes. Then we identify drift, and we need to do drift understanding. Yes, we have drift, but where? How big? And what types of drift? That's what we call drift understanding. And finally, knowledge adaptation. We identified we have drift here, and we identified this, the drift happened and quite big. Then what is the reaction you need to have? That is a knowledge adaptation. So if we consider learning under concept drift, it has 3 new parts compared with traditional machine learning. Can't do it. Oh, thank you. There are some researchers have been working on concept drift in recent few years. Basically, there are 2 strategies. One is a lazy strategy. The lazy strategy, the idea is we don't do any this knowledge adaptation until we identify some drift. So for lazy strategy, you must identify drift first. Make sure, yes, we have drift. Then we do reaction and knowledge adaptation. Based on dance strategy, there are 3 types. Type 1 is we detect drift. If yes, and we return this model and change old model to a new model. The second, we identify drift, then we adjust the model. That's the old model, and we don't rebuild. Rebuild is very expensive. So what do? We just change a little bit, adjust the model. That's the second part. So this one will be very expensive because you need to retrain the model. And this one will be this little bit easier, just change a little bit, not rebuild. The third one, we have this drift identified, and we have existing model, but we don't change the model, we change the labels. We use the model, we train the new data, and we get these other labels, then we just change the labels. So that's the 3 messages or 3 methodologies used under the strategy of lazy strategy. The second big strategy is active strategy. The active strategy, the idea is we can do every minute, okay? We can do now, whatever you have this drift or not, we just do it. The first one is we need to wait. You have drift, then we do adaptation. And the second is we don't need to wait until we find the drift, we just do adaptation. So the first idea is this incremental learning. Then we just, we will have any new data, we just update the model, and any new data, keep updating the model. And the second idea is we have a number of models, okay? We train the data at the same time. But some new models has high weight than this older one. The third part is active learning. Now it's quite popular. In this third part, we always evaluate current model to generate have some prediction about this the data distribution changes. Anyway, the general idea is you can have lazy strategy, you can have active strategy. Now, what this we are talking now is whatever any strategy, and we need to say what are the challenges, what are the hard parts in dealing with concept drift. The whole process with the concept drift in machine learning, we show the framework here. We have data, and we train and learning data, and we can generate a prediction. That's all the data, all the prediction. Then we have a new data. We can test you have drift or not. Okay? If say no drift, that's easy. We can still use all this model to train data. If say yes, then we need to say where the data the drift happened, where, how big. Then after that, we can do knowledge adaptation. Then we train a new model for prediction more accurately. That's the framework. Based on the framework, we can say we have 3 challenges. Challenge 1 is about this drift detection, how to detect drift. Challenge 2 is about understanding. We know, yes, we have drift, but you need to know where. just like a mobile phone usage, we know we have a different usage behaviors from 5 years ago, from 3 years ago. That is drift. But where? Where is the drift? Is in making mobile phone for photos, or they send a message or whatever. That is finally you need to have strategies to handle the problem. So in my research lab, what we did with this for this drift detection, we have listed 4 hard research issues within drift detection. And we developed in the last couple of years, we developed 4 solutions or 4 models, algorithms to deal with the 4 issues. That's all about drift detection. About drift understanding, we list 2 research issues as challenges, and we developed recently 2 new technologies to deal with drift understanding. And for knowledge adaptation, we list 1 is a question, that's a research question, and we have developed a new model to generate this adaptation, to adapt knowledge. So basically today in my PPT, I will show you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 methodologies or 7 research algorithms and models, and to handle all the 7 challenge research issues, and for the 3 part. Probably that is too much for today. I give you the framework, and I will only select 3 or 4 very typical, very successful algorithms and methodologies, and to handle the 3 challenging problems. So number 1, about drift detection. For drift detection, we have developed 4 models to deal with different situations, different problems. The first one, components model, that is a very innovative idea. So this one, when we developed this components model and generated a set of algorithms about components model-based drift detection algorithms. So this paper has been published in the journal Artificial Intelligence. That is a very top journal in artificial intelligence area. So I will discuss this one. Then I will quickly go through this one and this one. Maybe I don't have time to go to talk details about number 4. What is a competence model? Competence model is it's the model we gave the model later on. So we will base on the competence model. And what is the idea? So you have lots of old data, you have new data. We still consider stream data. And then we select 2 samples. 1 sample from past data, 1 sample from current data. Then we consider the sample and make sure the competence model can reflect the changes in sample data. So the idea is finally we only use this components model if components model that changes within the 2 sample data, then we will say we have a drift in your stream data set. So the main algorithm has 3 parts, and step 1 is about data modeling. Actually, we just model 2 data samples by components model. And step 2 is about the measurement. We need to calculate, we need to measure the differences between 2 samples. And the number step 3 is about statistic test. Say that is step 1. We quickly go to step 1. I just use example, and we have this 100 instances from past environment. We have 100 instances from current environment. Then there's the idea for this algorithm for our model. First, we need to build related sites, and for each instance, we build one related site, and also we will build a related closure. That's if this is one instance, and that is a related site, and this is the instance related to site, because this instance is within this related site, so whole together is a related closure. Then here is the detail for related closure. For example, C1 related site is a C1, C2, C3, C7, 2, 3, 7, and C2, because we have C2 here, so C2, we can easily to count this related sites. And because C3 here, we calculate, and C7 here, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4 related sites. And for the closure, we put all those together, that is a closure. So each this related site we also call a sub-region. And when we build this for every instance, we establish this related site and related closure. Then we can calculate this density. For example, because this C1 is within these 4 related sites, so the density will be 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. For all other instances, we can do the same. And also, of course, we will do normalization. And after we do all these 100 blue instances, and we do optimization, and we can get one factor. That is the factor about old or past these instances in past samples. And similar, we can do this process for the new environment. Then we can get 2 vectors. And finally, we will calculate the distance between the 2 factors. That is this methodology, this algorithm. Finally, we calculate distance. Now, the issue is you calculate the distance, but you need to know the distance is big enough to say it's a concept drift, or maybe very small, not a concept drift. So we need to we use the hypothesis test, and finally we can calculate it. Then if there's a greater than alpha, and we will say this concept drift occurred if this one is less than this alpha. So because this is a quite a big algorithm, we just give you the ideas about the concept drift. And of course, we we do not only 2 samples, we do 100 samples, and finally we identify where is the drift. If we have a drift or not. So that's a drift detection only can identify do I have a drift or not. Now, that is the second this algorithm. I only gave this one page to show the main idea. The main idea is in traditional way, in the last algorithm, we have this related site, and for each instance, you belong to the site or outside of site. So that's only in 0, 1. And however, for the new idea is because sometimes we say that instance is quite far from the middle of the cycle, and some is a little bit close, and some is outside of the cycle, but actually very close to. So we introduce a fuzzy boundary. The idea is we calculate the distance of each related instance to the middle of the cycle. Then we have membership functions like that. We use this method compared with method 1. The prediction accuracy has been improved. The third one, I also only gave you the main idea. The main idea is because every instant we need to calculate related site. And so the speed of the algorithm, the whole cost of the algorithm is quite high. How to reduce the cost? And we consider this example. We can say C1, C2, C3, C4, and for this one, actually you can say, if you calculate related closure, C3 and C4 has the same related closure. So what does it mean? That means C3 and C4, we can combine as a group. So in such case, we can reduce the number of instances to calculate related closure. So we can reduce the cost of calculation. Okay, those are the idea about the third algorithm about online competence model-based drift detection. So with that idea, before we have every instant we need to calculate this related closure, but for the new one we can make this much easier because we build lots of groups. Okay, those are the three. This number 4, I don't think I have time to introduce it. Oh, this. Okay, so now I quickly move to the second part about the drift understanding. And we developed 2 algorithms for drift understanding. I only introduced the first one. For drift understanding, the first part we identify or we detect drift. We say, yes, we have drift. But now we need to say when you have drift. And how about the drift and where you have drift. I think our group is probably one of the very few groups in the world to deal with drift understanding, and not only this check or identify when and how, also identify where happened. And so we have an algorithm. The first one, we need to construct estimation and density estimation. And the second, we need to find a threshold. That's very important. This to highlight this drift region and where, that's where. And then we have retrieval for drift region. And as we used before, this is the past instances. This is the current instances. This is in time t, this in time slot t plus 1. So if you just look, you have this one, this one, then they put together, you can easily see the drift. Okay, you put this one together, you see here there's a lot of blue but no red. Here lots of red but no blue. So that is the changes from past to current. So there is a drift. We can just say it. But that is I just use as easy sample to do. We can have if in practice we need to have some calculation. Then this we do exactly same as we did before. And about this to calculate this related closure and so on. And finally, we can get two this vector, one for past data, one for current data, and we can calculate distances. But now I use the two diagrams to show you the distances. You can see this is the blue part, this is the red part, and we put the blue in the front, and this we put the red in the front. And you can easily see the, the data distribution differences, the changes. But if we want to identify a region, not only these individual instances, we need to identify region. What we need to do, and we need to do, we need to this. First, we use the distances. We estimate the distances, and we use the distances, and we plus this kernel density estimation that we generate this such kind of this result. And in the result, we can see some part quite dark. That means could be the region of concept drift. And some part quite this light, that means no drift in those areas. And based on the idea, based on this result, and we can this also we need to calculate threshold, and we identify those regions are drift regions. And if you back to original data, and you can say those are the drift these instances. So our result, a lot of experiment already tested. The precision is 64%, and but the recall is very high, 100%. And this just now that is a type 1. It's a type 1 concept drift. For type 2 concept drift, we mentioned before, type 2 concept drift is it's about to change the boundary. So you can see the boundary has been changed. There's also classification, this task. And the boundary is, after boundary is changed, and we can say drift is around here. Those region is about drift. So use our method, we can identify the drift around here. And this, maybe I don't have time to talk about those one. I just quickly go to knowledge adaptation. So the first one, this part is to detect drift happened or not. The second part, we identify where is the drift, okay, close to boundary or close to this some drift regions. And now we say, yes, if we identify we have drift, and yes, the drift is in this area, then what do we need to do? And we need to do knowledge adaptation. This about knowledge adaptation, we use example about case-based reasoning, because knowledge adaptation, we use case-based reasoning, then this method has been published in artificial intelligence in the journal as well. So I just quickly talk about that, the idea. We know case-based reasoning. You learn case-based reasoning maybe in your year 2 or year 3 subject. Traditional case-based reasoning is when you have a new case come, and we do case retrieval, and then there's then we can find the similar cases, and we got the similar result. Then we reuse the similar solution before, but we need to revise, and finally we keep the case and with a new solution into the case base. So traditionally, case-based reasoning has 4 parts only. But if you want to consider concept drift, we need to add another 2 parts and review and restore. That is about we need to indicate some old cases or some cases in your knowledge base is too old. Then you need to revise them or delete them or re-edit them. And otherwise, the old cases cannot be reused. When you do retrieval, then this doesn't work. I just give you an example. Consider this maybe our USB, right? About 10 years ago, our USB only this 100 megabyte, or 1G is bigger, but now it is easily to have 10G 100, very big. Then if you want to use the old data, 1G, and to have any prediction about the current usage, that is not right. So all the old cases in the case base, we need revise, or we just delete it, or we identify they are noisy, they cannot be reused. That's the main idea. But how to do it? The algorithm is quite complicated. The algorithm has mainly these 3 parts. The part 1 is noisy, enhance, fast, noisy, about to identify noisy, remove drift, remove noisy. So you have new data, stream data come to your knowledge base. And then first you need to say if they have drift, then you need to deal with drift. And if they have some noisy, you need to identify that is noisy, not drift. That's a very hard job to identify which one's noisy, which one's drift. So we developed the algorithm to deal with, to identify the differences. But if noisy, we need to remove noisy. So that is one part. And the second part is about redundancy. So because you have new data, new cases come to your case base with your old cases together is very big. And you realize that some new cases are similar as old cases or even almost the same. That is we call redundancy. So in such case, we need to combine them together or delete this, some very, very similar or same cases. That's reduce this redundancy. So that are the 2 strategies. And for the first strategy, I don't go through the details, but you understand it's identify noisy and drift and deal with and remove noisy and drift separately. And the second is about remove redundancy. Okay, now I give summary about my talk today. In traditional or classical machine learning, it has an assumption. The assumption is the test data conforms the same patterns as the training data. That is the assumption in classical machine learning. And for those cases, if you don't have drift, that's okay. But if you have drift, then your prediction may go this way, but in reality may go this way. That's because about this drift. So our talk is to deal with that problem and develop technologies to help learning under concept drift. And those aim is clear, to stop or reduce any mistakes and before you make prediction and decision. And everybody know big data is the big research area currently. But the big data, if you consider big data, this whatever this volume, whatever this variety, and so on, we all need this online learning. Online learning actually is learning under stream data, and all use that you need concept drift technologies, including detection and reaction. And we discussed today about you have stream data. So my focus today is stream data. And when we talked about how to detect drift, and we talk about how to analyze this and maintain the case base, that is the knowledge adaptation, so that we can generate accurate prediction. All the algorithms and methodologies I discussed today are generated by my lab, and my lab actually all of those we have published the papers in journals and conferences in the last 2-3 years. And here is we selected some related papers, and exactly this with my presentation today. So if any student, any researchers, you are interested to do research in concept drift, and you can read all those papers, and some papers can give you an introduction, and some shows our very recent development, because all the papers is in last 3 years. And finally, I'm so happy to be in Bangkok and to meet all of you. And if all of you have any opportunity to visit Sydney, please let me know. And my university in center of Sydney City. And from my university to Opera House, I need 40 minutes, but if young students, you half hour. And this, and you say, what is that? What's that? Don't know? Okay, a group of people.
A group of people.
Okay, so people you can climb from here to here, but those people have these two conditions. Number one, you must wear very special clothes, exactly same color as the color of bridge, because we have 10 lines here by car and train. So they don't want the drivers to look at this, to look top, to look after you. So it's that's number one. Number two, this with a team, and there is a tutor. This will teach you how to enjoy, the good activity. And that is a very nice place. So welcome everybody to Sydney. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. They have to be very brave as well to get on top of that bridge. Do we have any questions from the audience? Yeah, wow, many. Could the staff hand the microphone to the gentleman here?
Hello. Test. Okay. Chattuya Jeliyawaji from KM UTT Thailand. Okay. I have 2 questions about the concept drift. The first one, I want you to give some opinion about the pros and the cons between, in comparison between the lazy and active learners. What is better than others by some criteria? Thank you.
Okay, there's very hard to say which strategy is better, because we did we used the lazy strategy, And this one is about to identify drift, then reaction. The cost of calculation is a little bit high, but the reaction result is good. Sorry. I redo. The cost of calculation is low because you identify, how to say this way? In total is low, but for drift detection, this part is high and your reaction is very low. And for the second one, we still have three, different methods. The first one, very popular, is whatever you have drift or not, we just update, keep learning. And in general, the total calculation cost is quite high. But you don't need to have concept drift. Concept drift detection. You don't need to have concept drift detection. Yeah. So hard to say which one is better, but for my group, we do both ways. By my understanding, just my personal this suggestion, this is really based on data. If you believe the data has drift, 100% sure, lots of drift, quite often drift, you can just use active learning. But you're not sure, may have, may not, then you can use lazy strategy.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So, the another question?
Yes.
Since I am currently interested in the active strategies and in my field of interest, okay. So I want you to give some from your experience. Can you give some explanation about the active learning strategy when dealing with the recurring concept? Can you give some? Can you give some of your experience? Okay.
We list three just now, right? We list three. The first one is more popular. The second one, because you need to have a number of models, then you use the model, you learn same time. That's the hardest part is to identify the weights, because some more important than others. So if you haven't tried yet, I suggest you try the first one first. And when you have some ideas, then you can see the second and the third. You can try other these methodologies.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
ค่ะขอบพระคุณค่ะ
I think we do have another questions for the gentleman in front here.
Yeah, thank you for a nice talk. So my question is, one is, there are some attributes which could be dormant at some time and becomes active after some time. So how you tackle that problem?
Sorry, I didn't get your question
There
very
could
early.
be some attributes which are dormant at some point of time.
Some attributes, you mean features?
Yeah.
Okay, some features.
Could be dormant for a period of time.
Okay.
But after some time it could be very active. So how you tackle that problem?
So I try to understand your question. Your question is when you have the demand and demand for the features, and some features are very stable and some features are very active.
Some features are dormant means it doesn't have any contribution to the effect.
Okay.
But after some time, those features could be active, depending on the political situation or whatever.
Okay,
so
okay.
how you take care of that?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. That question actually is part of is concept drift understanding to identify where you have a drift happened. So actually, I only introduced one to identify these regions. We have another method we call local drift. So we have global drift. We have a local drift. Then this your part is belong to local drift, this detection. So if you detect a local drift, then this we deal with the local drift only.
Yeah, but if you're in your attribute space, you don't consider some attribute at some certain time. How you can introduce them after some time? I mean, your attribute space will change.
Attributes space. There's
Attribute
the
space.
domain.
There's
The
space of
domain.
feature.
Oh yes. There's okay.
The dimension
domain
will
with
change.
domain will keep the same. Okay. Same domain, different distribution. But I know you mentioned it's different domains. In that case, we use transfer learning. That's cross-domain transfer learning. What the main does it mean? Source domains, source domain and target domain. Source domain, you have a feature space which could be different from target domain. And when you do domain adaptation, that's we use different methodologies. And we use in a source domain, we generate knowledge. And for the knowledge, and we transfer the knowledge to be suitable for target domain. That is not in my talk today.
Okay.
But very good question. Thank you.
Okay. And another question is, I mean, I didn't understand fully probably. So in your that change, you write the old data in blue and the new data in red. Okay. So
Sample data, samples.
Yeah, yeah. So those are snapshots, or all the data has some timestamp on it? They are snapshot data, or they have timestamps with every data?
All the blue data is a past sample. We don't have particular time. It's all in same time slot.
Oh, so it's a time.
Yeah, all blue in same time slot, or the red in another time slot. One is T, one is T plus 1.
Okay, 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 thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for your question.
ค่ะขอบพระคุณนะคะการบรรยายพิเศษโดย Professor Dr. จีลูนะคะลำดับถัดไปขอเรียนเชิญ Professor Dr. เฮอร์วิกอุงเกอร์ประธานจัดงานประชุมวิชาการ IC2IT 2017 มอบของที่ระลึกค่ะ
Thank you very much for your talk, and now I would like to invite Dr. Eric Unger to present our keynote speaker with a token of appreciation. And if you are interested in asking her more questions, you can catch her after the break. Or if you are not interested in asking her question but would like to go to Australia, you can also catch her after the break as well.
ค่ะขอขอบพระคุณนะคะนี่คือเป็นส่วนแรกนะคะของเช้าวันนี้เดี๋ยวลำดับต่อไปเราจะมีการเบรกกันสักประมาณ15นะคะและเริ่มการบรรยายพิเศษท่านที่2 Professor Dr. Hanno Lefman ประมาณ 11 นาฬิกาตรงนะคะเบรกจะอยู่ด้านหน้าห้องประชุมนะคะออกไปก็จะอยู่ทางด้านซ้ายมือนะคะเราจะเบรกกันประมาณ15 นาทีขอบพระคุณค่ะ
Okay, now it's time that everybody is waiting for is a break, and it's right outside the room on the left, to your left, and we'll be back here at 11. Thank you very much.
or you can use the mouse as well. Just left click.
And how to go back?
Right click.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I have the microphone and there.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
ท่านใช่ไหมครับที่เป็นได้
ใช่ค่ะ
แล้วท่านจะเนี่ยจะนั่งหรือยังไงเพราะว่าท่านต้องกดเองครับขึ้นอะไรเลยครับเพราะว่ามันไม่มีตัวคลิกเกอร์ให้ท่านใช่ไหม
ใช่
ท่านก็ต้องนั่งกด
ค่ะ
ท่านก็ต้องเคลียร์ตรงนี้
น่า
ก่อน
จะเดิน
แล้วท่านจะมากดยังไงเอ่ย
แต่เดี๋ยวเขาคงกดที่เมาส์เองค่ะ
เหรอ
ค่ะ เมื่อกี้ที่คุยกับเขาอยู่ ค่ะ
ไม่มีเมาส์ใช่ไหม
ไม่นี่
ไม่
กดตัวนี้
ไม่มีนั่นหรอคลิกเกอร์
ไม่มีค่ะ
อันนี้ไม่มีเมาส์
อันนี้มีไหมคะ
กำลังจะได้
ลองดูไหมคะ
ต้องรอเขา
อ๋อได้ค่ะ ค่ะ
วางเนาะ USB เหรออันล่างนะครับ ถ้าเกิดจะกลับตัวบนตัวกลางตอนนี้เป็นเลเซอร์พอยต์ตัวบนสุดตัวเลเซอร์พอยต์
โอเค
เราแล้วกดดูครับอันล่างสุดนะอันล่างสุดนะ
ล่าสุดเลยไปเรื่อยๆ
ถ้าเกิดจะกลับก็ตรงกลางแล้วก็ต้องเป็นเลเซอร์พอยต์
ได้
เดี๋ยวไม้ลอยให้แกเจ็อันนี้ผมเปิดแล้วนะครับ เดี๋ยวจะหยิบ
กลัวว่ากลัววางไว้แล้วมันจะหอมนะมันไม่นี่กันใช่ไหมใช่เอาตอนนี้มันเปิดไฟ
ขออนุญาตนะคะตอนนี้เราเจอมือถือ iPhone ค่ะอาจารย์ช่วยเช็คตรวจสอบนิดนึงใครลืมมือถือไว้นะคะเป็น iPhone ที่มีกรอบด้านหลังจะเป็นเหมือนกับเรียกว่าอะไรดีล่ะสีดำ iPhone สีดำนะคะถ้าสมมุติว่าอาจารย์ท่านใดหรือผู้เข้าร่วมงานท่านใดนะคะลืม iPhone ไว้นะคะแจ้งที่เจ้าหน้าที่ได้เลยนะคะ iPhone นะคะตอนนี้เราเจอ iPhone โทรศัพท์ iPhone 1 เครื่องนะคะผู้ร่วมงานท่านใดลืมไว้ติดต่อสตาฟได้เลยทันทีนะคะ
พูดมั้ง I think we'll wait for a few more minutes so that everybody gets to finish their breaks and come in. Photos? Okay.
ค่ะลำดับถัดไปนะคะเป็นการบรรยายพิเศษโดย Professor Dr. Hanno Lefman นะคะในหัวข้อเรื่อง Testing and Estimating Graph Parameters for Monotone Properties.
And now I think it's a good time to listen to our second keynote speaker today. Our next keynote speaker today got a PhD and also a habilitation from University of Bielefeld, Germany. Afterward, he joined the computer science department at the University of Dortmund, Germany, during which time he also got a visiting position at IBM Scientific Center in several universities in both Europe and America. He is currently a full professor in theoretical computer science and information security. The topic of his talk today will be testing and estimating parameters of monotone properties. Please give a warm welcome to our second keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Hanno Lefman.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah? Fine. Okay, thank you very much for inviting me to give here a talk. This talk will be a little bit more theoretical than the others were with some... oh, no, I have to go closer to this. Okay, so okay, this was the other button. So what about the content of my talk? I give some motivation, talking about graphs and some properties this graph have, what one wants to decide. Then the concept of regularity comes in. Regularity means things behave nicely. Yeah? Edges are distributed nicely. Then I come to testing and estimating of certain parameters, yeah, of typical properties of a graph. Then we want to count something, say, subgraphs, efficiently, approximately. And then I finish with some concluding remarks. Okay, so G is a graph, vertex set V, edge set E. So we have a vertex set and an edge set. Edges means two vertices of the graph may or may not be connected by an edge. The number of vertices is usually denoted by n, where typically n is a large. So here are two examples of graphs. A complete graph, K3, a triangle. So 3 vertices, 3 edges, a quick, simple example. K4, 4 vertices, 6 edges. Questions one can ask, is there a triangle in the graph? Yeah, very simple question. So easy algorithm, check all triples of vertices in time of the order n cubed at most, very simple. Or compute the third power of the adjacency matrix and check the diagonal. Are there non-zero entries on the diagonal? It contains a triangle, otherwise not. So what is the time for matrix multiplication? N cube, you know, simple, straightforward algorithm. The best one can do is around now time n to the 2.37 and some number. Coppersmith and Vinograd say. So another question one can ask, given a graph, is it connected? Is this graph connected? Any two vertices can be reached from the other one via edges. It's also very easy. Use depth first search or breadth first search algorithm. Chromatic number of a graph. What is a chromatic number? Is the least integer r, such that there is a coloring of the vertex set, of the vertices with r colors, such that for all edges, the end vertices of this edge are colored by different colors. Yes, a least integer. For example, if you have a complete graph on L vertices, the chromatic number is L, simply because any two vertices are connected by an edge. The question, given a graph, is the chromatic number equal to? Is it a bipartite graph? It's easy to solve. Use breadth first search. However, now the threshold value is a chromatic number 3. It's difficult. It's an NP complete problem. So we cannot expect polynomial time algorithm for this. Another question is, given a fixed graph, say this is small, you can always have in mind if there's an F, let's talk about a triangle. So one can ask, given a fixed graph, a graph is simply notation is F-free if it does not contain a copy of this given graph F. So if F is a triangle, a graph is triangle-free if it does not contain a triangle. So how many edges must one delete at least to get it triangle-free, to make it F-free? Such a question. Yeah? Well, how we want to solve it algorithmically. Now the notion of the subgraph. G prime is a subgraph of a graph F if V prime, the vertex set of the subgraph, is contained in the vertex set of the graph, and similarly for the edge set. So a question is, how many F-free subgraphs does a graph have approximately? A graph might have a lot of F-free subgraph. We want to estimate this number approximately. Maybe not only by polynomial time algorithm, maybe by constant time algorithm. Yeah? So typical aim would be, given a graph, is it triangle free? Can we check this in constant time? Yeah, of course, not with full precision, but maybe with some probability. Probability at least 2/3. Yeah? This will be the concept of testing or estimating, where we'll come later to. So now the tools which one uses are regularity. During the talk, I will oversimplify a little some things to take out some technical difficulties. Yeah? So just to have it in mind, it's not wrong. It's only I omit details. So given the graph, two subsets of vertices, A and B, intersection of them should be empty. By E of A and B, I denote the number of edges in the graph with one end vertex in A, the other in B. So we have two sets A and B, and I'm only considering the edges running between these two sets A and B. The density, or the edge density, between these two sets A and B is the number of edges divided by the maximum number of edges possible at all. So divided by the cardinality of A and the cardinality of B. Now this notion of regularity, given epsilon, say epsilon is 1 divided by 100, or 1/10. A pair of subsets is called epsilon regular if for every subsets, which are not too small, so X in A, Y in B, and X has cardinality at least epsilon times cardinality of A, Y has cardinality at least epsilon times cardinality of B, the density of the pair AB differs not that much from the density of the pair XY. So we have a pair AB of vertex sets. It has some certain density of the edges between. And for every not too small subsets, X and Y, the density between X and Y does not differ that much from the density of A and B. So, yeah, what is an equipartition of a set? It's a partition of the vertex set into some subsets, say M many, which are nearly of equal size. So their sizes differ at most by 1. It's nothing deep. So if you have such a partition of the vertex set of the graph into M sets, V1 till Vm, we call this equipartition epsilon regular if all but at most epsilon times M square pairs Vi, Vj are regular, epsilon regular. Yeah? So all, nearly all, yeah? If epsilon is 1 divided by 100, all of the M choose 2 up to M square divided by 100 of the pairs are epsilon regular. So what are the properties? If we have an epsilon regular pair, almost all vertices have approximately the same number of neighbors, yeah? The same degrees, approximately the same degrees. And also almost all pairs of vertices have approximately the same number of joint neighbors. Yeah? Almost all pairs of vertices have approximately the same codegree. Yeah? If you have two vertices, look at the joint neighbors, count them for all pairs, almost for all pairs, for almost all of the pairs, these numbers are approximately the same. So what does it mean in such a pair? Edges, epsilon regular pair, Vi, Vj, edges are distributed in some sense randomly, yeah? Behave nicely, randomly. So the existence of such an epsilon regular equipartition, nice partition in that sense, was shown by Semeredy a couple of years ago. And concerning an algorithm, determining algorithmically whether a pair Vi, Vj is epsilon regular is co-NP complete. So you cannot check in polynomial time, assuming P unequal NP, whether a pair is epsilon regular. However, if a pair is not epsilon regular, one can find in polynomial time a pair of vertices, AB, A in Vi, B in Vj, that realizes that the pair is not epsilon to the 4 divided by 16 regular. So you cannot approximate in polynomial time P unequal to NP, check in polynomial time whether a pair is not epsilon regular or regular, but you can realize this with another value of this epsilon to the 4. So that means one can design the following algorithm. Start with an arbitrary partition of the vertex set, say, into L classes of nearly equal size. Check epsilon regularity of every pair according to the however remark. If too many of the pairs can be identified to be not epsilon regular, refine the partition and continue. One can show that this process finally stops with at most a number of classes depending on this epsilon. So if epsilon is 1 divided by 100, the function tower of 1 divided by 100 to the minus 20 is a constant. So we stop with a constant number of classes. However, the number of classes is quite large. And so tower of k means we have a tower of 2s of height k. We only can guarantee a tower of 2s of height epsilon to the minus 20. Yeah? So upper bound could be less. So, and this is essentially the constructive regularity lemma due to Lon, Duke, Rödel, Husler, and myself. So some of these statements are for all, they exist. So one has to be a little bit careful when reading this. So given epsilon, given a positive integer m0, 10 say, there's a large integer, capital M, and an integer n0 depending on these, such that the following holds. Every graph on n vertices, n sufficiently large, has an epsilon regular equipartition into m classes. M is at least the lower bound, m0, at most the upper bound, capital M, but M is constant. And so now the algorithm for every epsilon and lower bound M0, such a partition can be found in time matrix multiplication. Yeah? Time to multiply to n by n matrices over the integers, with only entries 0 and 1. And the time for this is, the best known time is around n to the 2.37 and something. So if you have such a partition, epsilon regular partition of a graph, yeah, so we have these m classes. M is a constant, might be large, is a constant. We can form the cluster graph. What is a cluster graph? We take as vertex sets the indices of the M sets. So the vertices are numbered by 1, 2 till M. And if we have an epsilon regular pair, Vi with J, yeah, we connect the two vertices in the cluster graph by an edge. Only if we have a nice pair, an epsilon regular pair, we connect the vertices in the cluster graphs, the corresponding ones, by an edge. Yeah, so we have a large graph on many vertices. We form a cluster graph on a constant number of vertices. So what are the properties of this cluster graph? If the cluster graph contains a copy of a graph F, then the original graph contains also a copy of the graph F. So I say it again, if the cluster graph contains a triangle, then the input graph contains a triangle too. Indeed, if the cluster graph contains a triangle, then the input graph contains many triangles, many copies of the graph F. Namely, to make it a little bit more precise, if we have 3 vertex sets, yeah, in the input graph, V1, V2, V3, each has cardinality n. Any pair is epsilon regular, Bi, Bj with density Dij, then the number of triangles in the input graph is approximately n cubed times the product of the edge densities, approximately. So what does this say? The cluster graph of a graph, input graph G, is a fingerprint of the graph. Fingerprint. One can read off some properties. Consequences of these, of the regularity in connection with the cluster graph. So here's again a statement. For every they exist. So given an integer L, positive integer, given maybe a small number gamma, bigger than 0, there exists some epsilon, such that for sufficiently large n, the following holds. If we are given a graph on n vertices, which has at most epsilon times n to the L copies of a complete graph, say if the complete graph is a triangle, given a graph on n vertices having less than epsilon times n cubed copies of a triangle, then one can find in time matrix multiplication a set of at most gamma n square edges, which we can delete to get a triangle-free graph. Yeah? So if we have at most this many triangles, then we can delete in the graph at most this many edges to get it triangle-free. Or said the other way, if we have to remove a large number of edges of the graph to make it triangle-free, then the graph contains a lot of triangles. Yeah? This is the so-called removal lemma. Yeah? So if we have few copies of a triangle in a graph, then we can remove a few number of edges to make the graph triangle-free. Again, another consequence, chromatic number. I mentioned it already. So just as a reminder, the chromatic number of a graph G is the least integer R, such that we can color the vertices with the colors 1 till R, where all edges have endpoints in distinct colors. I said already, determining whether a graph has chromatic number 3 is an NP complete problem. And such a coloring, where all edges, where the end vertices of all edges are colored differently, this is called a proper coloring. So, another consequence, so again, for all delta bigger than 0, integers k bigger than 1, something holds for k n sufficiently large. So if you are given an n-vertex graph, we have a deterministic algorithm running time n to the 2.37, yeah? So less than cubic time, whose output is the following. Either it shows us a constant set of vertex set of constant size, yeah, which satisfies that the chromatic number of this subgraph is at least k, so we get a certificate of constant size. Yeah. The subgraph has chromatic number at least k. Of course, then the input graph has also chromatic number at least k. Or we can remove a small number, delta n square, of edges, and the remainder of edges, we can find a proper k-1 coloring of the remainder by of this graph from which we removed the edges. So either we can find a certificate, oh, this chromatic number at least k, or we can remove a small number of edges and find a proper k-1 coloring. So, and there are several other applications, consequences of this result. Regularity became a quite important tool. Now, let's come to testing. What does testing means? You have a large input graph. Say you take a random sample of constant size. You want to estimate or say something, decide something for some certain probability. So some notation here. G, calligraphic G is a set of finite graphs. G of V is a set of all such graphs with vertex set V. Graph properties. What are graph properties? Graph properties are subsets of the set of all graphs, finite, of course, that are closed under isomorphisms. What are monotone graph properties? If a graph is a property, I take a subgraph of it. Some vertices, some edges, it should also have this property. Yeah, these are monotone properties. They are inherited by subgraphs. As an example, take for a fixed graph f, say f is a triangle, the set of all graphs which do not contain a triangle. So form f is a class of all graphs that do not contain a fixed graph. And of course, instead of f, you can also take a family of graphs. Say K3, K4, the triangle, and the complete graph on 4 vertices. And the elements of the class form of something are for a family F, F3. Now, what is a property which is testable? Given epsilon, there exists an integer which only depends on epsilon. If epsilon is 1 divided by 100, q of epsilon is some constant. And this integer we call the query complexity. And we have a randomized algorithm called a tester, which performs at most this q, many queries in the input graph, so at most constant queries, such as the following holds. So I define a property to be testable. Testable means for every epsilon, there exists some q, the query complexity, and a randomized algorithm. What does this randomized algorithm says? Well, for an input graph on n vertices, the tester distinguishes between probability at least 2/3 between the two cases. Either the input graph satisfies this property, and the second case is the input graph is quite far away from satisfying this property. That means, well, no graph obtained from this input graph by adding or removing at most epsilon times, say, n square edges satisfies this property. So I have to remove a lot of edges such that the input graph satisfies this property, or I have to add a lot of edges. Now, monotone graph properties are testable. This was proved by Alon and Shapira. So, testable means tester has access to a subset of vertices and edges, and these sets have size, constant size. So, now we come to estimability. We have a function from the set of finite graphs into the reals or the rationals, whatever, is a graph parameter if it is invariant under relabeling, under renaming vertices. And we say such a function is estimable if for every epsilon and every large enough graph, we can do something with probability bigger than at least 2/3. Namely, this parameter can be approximated up to an additive error of epsilon, again, by an algorithm that only has access to a subgraph of this input graph induced by a set of vertices of this input graph of constant size, of size q, which depends only on epsilon. And of course, this subset of the vertices here should be chosen uniformly at random. Just one, the query complexity, the algorithm has access to all pairs of vertices of this qz vertices, qz over 2, and the sample complexity is qz. So there's not much difference there. Now, what's the aim for some graph family? We want to count approximately the number of F-free spanning subgraphs. Yeah, so on the spanning means on the same vertex set as the input graph. And if F is a triangle, we want to count approximately the number of F-free spanning triangle-free subgraphs of the input graph G. So just for notation, given a graph and the family F, form G of F is the number of spanning subgraphs or the number of subgraphs of G which are F-free. Now let's denote the following parameter by the F of G. The number of F-free spanning subgraphs of G. We take this number, takes the logarithm, base 2, and normalize by the number of vertices square. This is the parameter we want to estimate. That means if F is a triangle, and if F is a complete graph Kn, we want estimating that F means determines the number of triangle-free spanning subgraphs of the complete graph of n on n vertices up to a multiplicative error of 2 to the little o of n square. Yes? 2. So, this has been done by Kleitman or so for the complete graph, not for an arbitrary graph. So one can show that this parameter approaches 1/4. Yeah. Now, what we did with Hoppen, Correa, Kavalang, and Stagny, if we have a finite family of graphs, then for every epsilon, there is n0, such that for any graph with sufficiently large number of vertices, this graph parameter can be estimated up to an additive error of epsilon with sample complexity, a tower function of a polynomial of the logarithm of 1 divided by epsilon. Again, tower of k, if epsilon is a constant, tower is a constant, tower of k is a tower of 2's of height k. These are upper bounds. Yeah? So, bounds before were, they had here a polynomial of 1 divided by epsilon. So here, this is the improvement. It's only a polynomial in the logarithm of 1 divided by epsilon. Therefore, I said at the beginning, at some points I oversimplify. I do not tell the reasons, the technical reasons. So the improvement is here with respect to former results in this term, the logarithm of 1 divided by epsilon. So this, and the reason for this is people before, to get here polynomial of 1 divided by epsilon, they use this concept of regularity, which I told you. One can use another concept of regularity, which is weaker, which suffices to prove something like this here, where we have this term now. There might be other concepts of regularity or other notions when a graph behaves nicely that one can maybe get rid of also this tower here. Yeah? Take it to be exponential. Yeah? But this is not clear. So what does one do? So a weighted graph is a directed graph, a symmetric directed graph, and we have edge weights between 0 and 1. Just view it as a complete graph with the loops. G star of V, a set of all weighted graphs, and on the vertex set B, and if we omit the V, all vertex sets are possible. For a weighted graph and for sets A and B, for unweighted graphs, we had E of AB is the number of edges between A and B, and now for a weighted graph, we sum up the edges, the weights of the edges running between A and B. And if A equals B, we do it for all edges within A. Oh, now, we had these equipartitions of a graph. They differ by size by at most 1. We had the notion of a cluster graph, so we can look at the weighted cluster graph. What do we do? If we have such a partition, we associate with this partition into M classes, M vertices, and now we have a complete graph, and for a pair of vertices, I and j, in the cluster graph, we associate the edge density of the corresponding pair in the input graph. Oh, sorry, I always... There it is. I sum up the weights of the edges between Vi and Vj, divide by the cardinalities of Vi and Vj. So pk of V is a set of all equipartitions of the vertex sets into at most k classes, and G slash P of k is a set of all cluster graphs whose vertex sets have size at most k. Here you see, again, you have a partition here. If you have something which is epsilon regular, we draw here an edge in the cluster graph. Now, what is the idea? How to estimate the graph parameter which counts, say, the number of spanning subgraphs of a graph which are triangle-free. We approximate this graph parameter by the solution of an optimization problem. Namely, the idea is takes the input graph, forms the cluster graph on constantly many vertices, and do something there. Yeah? So we work on a graph of constantly many vertices, do something there, do some optimization there, and then say something concerning the number of spanning triangle-free subgraphs of the input graph. So if you have graph, what is a subgraph of a graph? We omit some vertices and some edges. for weighted graphs, S is a subgraph of R, we can also reduce simply the edge weights. So for any pair ij, Sij is at most R of ij. So again, the notion now for weighted graphs of FORB, R and F comes in is the set of all subgraphs of the input graph R, which do not contain a copy of F. And we said simply, if we have an input graph now R, for bit elements of F, we define this Ex star of Rf to be normalized by 1 divided by the number of vertices of R squared by some maximum over all subgraphs of R, which do not contain the copy of F. So E of S is essentially, up to normalization, the largest edge density of a subgraph of R not containing a copy of any member of the family F. So now, and this is the crucial thing, what I mentioned 2 minutes ago, how we do this optimization. So we have a family of graphs, say F is a triangle, only thing, but it can be any family. Then for any epsilon, there exists a constant number which depends only on epsilon, and capital N, which is a polynomial in K at most, so also constant, such that for any graph with size at least this constant number, this capital N, the following holds. If we count the number of triangle-free subgraphs in G, takes the logarithm of this number, normalized by the number of vertices square, then this is the same up to plus minus epsilon by the maximum over all cluster graphs of constant size of this graph, the input graph G, of this parameter x star of R and family F, so a triangle. So to determine this number, we can do something over all cluster graphs of the input graph of the size at most a constant, and then we have this one up to plus minus epsilon. So how does one do this essentially? The distance between two weighted graphs is essentially, well, you can say the Hamming distance, the weighted Hamming distance for every pair of edges, so they should be on the same vertex set, takes the differences of the edge weights, takes the absolute value, sum it up, and normalize. And the result, why one can do this with this cluster graph, is if we have a graph property, graph parameter Z, and if we assume there's another weighted graph parameter Z star, and some constant K and C such that something holds, the given graph parameter Z on unweighted graphs can be expressed as a maximum over some cluster graphs of the weighted graph parameter for every graph G. And the cluster graphs have at most capital K vertices. And the second thing, whenever we have two graphs, weighted graphs on the same vertex set, R and R prime, takes the difference of the weighted graph parameters, takes the absolute value. If this can be bounded by a constant times the distance between these two graphs, then this unweighted graph parameter Z is estimable with a sample complexity which is polynomial in this K, in this constant, and C divided by epsilon. So it's only polynomial. But what is hidden here are the constants. They might be large, might be, concerning upper bounds. Yeah? So, but it's only polynomial in epsilon up to some constant. Yeah? But for practical application at the moment, it might be too large. Yeah? Might. But you see, these are upper bounds, only what we can guarantee. So, and for this one simply shows, I will be a little bit brief here, that a set of all cluster graphs is of a graph, input graph G, is very similar to the set of cluster graphs of a large enough sample of the graph. In other words, if I have an input graph G, and if I take a large enough random sample, if for both I take an equipartition and look at the difference, then with probability 1/3 at least, it holds. If you have an equipartition for the input vertex set, there's an input partition of the sampled vertices such that the corresponding cluster graphs differ not that much. And the same holds for the random sample. Yeah? For an equipartition of the random sample, constantly many vertices, I find an equipartition of the input vertex set such that the distance of the cluster graphs, yeah, so original graph was second statement G divided by the equipartition of the original vertex set and the distance of the sample divided by the equipartition of the sample, they do differ not that much. So, some concluding remarks. Distance and counting subgraphs are closely related for monotone graph properties, namely the distance of a graph from the set of all triangle-free subgraphs, say, can be estimated by the edge density, 2 times the number of edges normalized by cardinality of V squared, minus 2, the 2 are only for normalization, 2 times the parameter Z, plus minus little o of 1. Therefore, estimating number of subgraphs is an indirect way of estimating also distances, and of course vice versa. Yeah? Monotone properties, I said, we considered. For arbitrary properties, which are non-monotone, things might be not estimable. Yeah? So if you have a property P and graph G, want to determine this graph parameter, namely the number of spanning subgraphs of a graph G, of the input graph G, which satisfies property P, takes a logarithm, normalizes. This might not be even estimable. Takes the following example. An independent set in a graph is a subset of the vertex set which does not contain any edges. Yeah? So there are no edges within this set I. Now we take the non-monotone property having no independent set of size 3. Yeah? So no independent set of size 3. Now consider the following example. If you have, as G1 is a complete graph on n vertices, and you take the graph G2, which is a complete graph on n vertices minus the edges of a triangle. So I removed 3 edges. Yeah? So one graph is complete, G1. The other is a complete graph, 3 edges removed. Yeah? So we want to count the number of spanning subgraphs of G1. There are many of these. For the complete graph on n vertices, how many are there without having an independent set of size 3. Take a complete graph and take the complement of it. That gives a lower bound of 2 to the n square over 4. However, if we start with a graph G2, which does not contain which contains an independent set of size 3, the number of spanning subgraphs satisfying containing no independent set of size 3 is equal to 0. So G1 has a lot of subgraphs satisfying property P. G0 has none subgraph satisfying P, but their distance is really negligible. Yeah? Kn, all n choose 2 edges. G2, Kn minus a triangle, n choose 2 minus 3 edges. Distance is 3, negligible, but concerning the number of subgraphs, settings-wise is P. One has a lot, the other only 0. Well, there are some related results for hereditary graph properties concerning induced subgraphs. I will not go into detail, and thank you very much. Yeah, sorry, I had a stuffy nose, still from flying there, and still a little bit on jet lag.
You can understand that.
I came from Europe, didn't sleep.
อ๋อใช่ ค่ะก็อาจจะมีอาการเหนื่อยๆนิดนึงนะคะเพราะเนื่องจากว่าบินมาจากเยอรมันนะคะอาจจะมีในเรื่องของเจ็ตแลกนะคะแต่ว่าในเรื่องของคำถามถ้าสมมติว่าท่านผู้มีเกียรตินะคะมีคำถามอะไรยินดีเลยค่ะ
Do you have any questions from the audience? Not a lot of time that we have a pure science or pure mathematics speakers in this conference. So do we have any questions? If not, I have one actually. Every time I listen to pure math or pure science talk, I always have questions about like how, what are, yeah, it's theoretical, right? What are some of the applications where this finding can be applied to? The applications that this finding can be applied to.
You see, of course, one wants to find applications of these things. Yeah? I only showed what one can guarantee from the theoretical points of view. Guarantee means there's a concept of regularity, some concept, which guarantees that one can find some things with these upper bounds. There might be another notion of regularity, whatever that means. And this is the aim one is heading for, which yields upper bounds, which are much better than that one has before. So here I said, well, I take some randomized algorithm, have access to a constant number of vertices of a large graph, and want to say something with certain probability. I do not do this multi-start algorithm, which I only wanted to say what one can guarantee. Maybe much more is true, but one cannot show it as a moment.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, I used to work in a field in computer networks, and I used to apply fractal theory to my research. So that's why I wonder, like, maybe other people, I mean, in other fields.
But you see, I'm a little bit more theoretical, so I say, well, this can be guaranteed. Maybe much more can be guaranteed, but maybe it takes a little bit more time to see.
Okay, I hope you researchers can find something useful and that you can pick on from this talk and apply to your own work. Okay, if there's no other questions, I would like to invite Associate Professor Dr. Aruni Intarapairot to present our keynote speaker with a gift from the conference. Is she here? She's still here? Okay, she's outside.
ค่ะในระหว่างนี้ขออนุญาตให้ข้อมูลเพิ่มเติมนะคะ เดี๋ยวพอเสร็จจากการบรรยายนะคะ เราจะรับประทานอาหารร่วมกันนะคะ เราจะมีห้องรับประทานอาหาร2ห้องนะคะและเดี๋ยวจะชี้แจงให้ทราบอีก1ครั้งนะคะขอเรียนเชิญท่านรองศาสตราจารย์ดร.อรุณีอินทราไพโรจน์มอบของที่ระลึกค่ะ
Okay, thank you very much for your talk.
โอเคสำหรับการรับประทานอาหารนะคะสำหรับวันนี้เราจะมีห้องรับประทานอาหารอยู่ด้วยกัน2ห้องนะคะจะเป็นห้อง Mango 99 Lobby Floor นะคะชั้น1กับอีก1ห้องก็คือห้องซับฟาอยู่ชั้น23นะคะอยากให้แขกผู้มีเกียรติทุกท่านตรวจดูคูปองนะคะที่ท่านได้รับนิดนึงภายในคูปองจะระบุและบอกไว้แล้วค่ะว่าท่านจะต้องไปรับประทานอาหารที่ห้องไหนนะคะถ้าเป็น Mango 99 คืออยู่ที่ Lobby Floor นะคะชั้น1ถ้าเป็นห้องซับไฟคืออยู่ที่ชั้น23ค่ะส่วนในตอนเย็นค่ะตอนเย็นเราจะมีดินเนอร์กันนะคะหลังจากที่เราพรีเซนต์อะไรทุกอย่างเสร็จเริ่มประมาณ6โมงเย็นนะคะ 18 นาฬิกาตรงเราจะมีดินเนอร์ที่ห้องนี้นะคะห้องอโนมาห้องใหญ่เนี่ยแหละค่ะเราจะมีการประกาศในส่วนของ Best Paper Award มีอีกหนึ่งข่าวค่ะที่อยากจะให้ทุกท่านได้ทราบกันก็คือณตอนนี้เรามีเจ้าหน้าที่จาก DAAD นะคะซึ่ง DAAD เนี่ยเรารู้กันอยู่แล้วว่าเป็นองค์กรที่ให้ทุนนะคะโดยเฉพาะในเรื่องของการศึกษาต่อหรือในเรื่องของการทำงานวิจัยในประเทศเยอรมนีและทุนเหล่านี้เป็นทุนที่ฟรีค่ะอาจารย์ไม่มีข้อผูกมัดถ้าอาจารย์ท่านใดหรือว่าแขกผู้มีเกียรติท่านใดต้องการข้อมูลเพิ่มเติมนะคะมีเจ้าหน้าที่รออยู่ด้านหน้าแล้วนะคะพร้อมที่จะให้คำแนะนำ
Does that apply to the foreigners as well?
I'm not sure for this one. Maybe we should give some criteria that you would like to do first.
All right, let me translate. Lunch, there are 2 rooms. One on the lobby floor, Mango 99. You should look at your lunch coupon and go to the correct room. Okay, Mango 99 is on the 1st floor and the Sapphire is on the 23rd floor. Our dinner in the evening will start at 6 p.m. in this room, Anoma, and we'll also have some of the show and the Best Paper Award ceremony as well. She just informed us that there are representatives from DAAD, which is the organization that gives out scholarships to further the studies in the graduate levels. So if you are interested, and you can contact the staff, and they will point out the contact from that for you. Okay.
ขออนุญาตอีก1เรื่องนะคะเนื่องจากว่าทุกท่านจะได้รับแบบประเมินค่ะในส่วนของแบบประเมินทั้ง NCCIT หรือ IC2IT นะคะรบกวนนะคะฟีดแบ็กนี่ถือว่าเป็นสิ่งที่สำคัญสำหรับพวกเรามากนะคะรบกวนกรอกข้อมูลนะคะให้ฟีดแบ็กเรานิดนึงนะคะในส่วนของกล่องด้านหลังของห้องค่ะจะมีการแยกประเภทเอาไว้แล้วนะคะว่าเป็นแบบประเมินทางด้านของ NCCIT หรือ IC2IT นะคะแล้วเดี๋ยวในช่วงบ่ายนะคะเราจะมีน้องเจ้าหน้าที่ตามเก็บในส่วนของแบบประเมินอีก1ครั้งนะคะขอบพระคุณเป็นอย่างสูงค่ะ
Okay, and this one last information is very important for us. There is an evaluation form in your registration package. So if you could please fill that out and put it in the box at the back of this room. There's 2 boxes, one for IC2IT and one for NCCIT. We really appreciate that. Thank you very much and enjoy your lunch.